Well, a very good afternoon, good morning, or good evening, depending on where you are in the world as usual. And welcome to another Instagram Live. Today we are interviewing a wonderful individual by the name of Jarryd Irvine, who is the owner of Actualize Wellness. I'm very excited to have him on today. I am literally just adding him now. There we go. I know. So that invite should be going out shortly. Now, one of the main reasons why I'm so excited to be on this interview today with him is because what it is that he's actually doing seems to be so intriguing. Ah, there he is. And joining. He has clicked join, by the way. It's just that seems to be taking a while to connect. But whilst that happens, as I was saying, it's so intriguing the way that he approaches wellness, specifically the way that he approaches fitness. So often, I don't know how many of my followers and people who are catching this on the Wellness Lifestyle Conference channels as well, how many of you have used a personal trainer in the past, but it can sometimes be a little bit daunting when everything is just about the physical. Where Actualized Wellness actually looks at approaching it as, well, I suppose as a hierarchy, actually, to borrow a phrase from their own website, which is really cool. This seems to be not going through. Jarryd, if you can hear me, I'm going to reject and add you again. Let's see if that goes through. Or maybe if you, let's see, maybe see if you can send a request. Maybe that might go through easier. Let me try again. Oh. Ah, there we go. Yay.
Yeah, now
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Fantastic. Yes, I can hear you perfectly. How are you doing?
Good stuff. Good on you.
Yeah, not too bad at all. Thank you. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to do this with us. We really do appreciate it.
No, huge pleasure.
So, okay, I was just explaining in between as you were joining on a little bit about what your firm does and what you do. And one of the reasons that I was so excited to have you on today, and that is because of your very unique, I think, approach to fitness and wellness. You're really taking it as a holistic approach to everything. But before we get to that, I'm going to pass you the same question that I do to everyone, which is tell us a little bit about yourself and what got you into this journey and got you to this point where you thought, you know what, I need to start this particular company in order to start helping people.
Cool. Yeah, thanks for letting me join in. So I think my journey really started as a child. So I was a 12-year-old kid that weighed 84 kilograms, which is quite robust. And yeah, like I think as a young kid, I enjoyed activity. And then as I gained the weight just from malnutrition or like not incorrect nutrition, yeah, I just kept accumulating. And then eventually my mom was like, he needs to be doing something because I quit from all the activity. And then eventually, yeah, so I started swimming, and then I think I lost the weight after probably 2 years, or the puppy fat as you would call it. And then but I only lost the like mental baggage of having that weight after like eight to 10 years. And at that stage, I'd been studying sports science, and I was teaching kids how to swim. And that's really where the journey began. And from there, we started doing holistic development programs because our swimming pool couldn't be used in winter. And so it really culminated from there. And then while I was studying, we did a subject called corporate wellness, which I found really interesting. And I actually sort of put two and two together. Like most people that go through the corporate world or the corporate ladder, they work so hard to earn a good salary and provide for their family and do amazing things in their firms. And then by the time they get to like 45, 50, maybe even 35, they have insomnia, they have a whole bunch of physical and mental health issues from this journey that they chose when they were like 23 and thought they were trying to prove something to someone else, and they didn't prove something to themselves. Yeah, and that's pretty much where the journey began. And I was mentored by one of my clients that I did personal training with to start Actualize and to actually start coaching people. We never ran one of the phased rollout holistic wellness programs that we planned to roll out, but we started working with kids, and yeah, that's really culminated into a really cool journey.
Fantastic. And I think that even resonates more with me now because I was also quite a hefty kid. And it's difficult, like you say, to get rid of that mental baggage as you progress. And for our overseas listeners, 85 kilos, that's, I think, roughly about 190 pounds, somewhere around there. So it's quite a lot, and it can be really difficult to lose that. And then the other thing that you brought up, of course, with your corporate clients, I can again definitely resonate with that. I had a mild heart attack at the age of 31, didn't know what was going on at all. And it was just stress and bad diet, fast-paced financial services world. Getting into the gym fairly regularly, but it was more just because that was part of the routine. But then just eating horrendously and working like 15-hour days. So it's not sustainable. So yeah, for sure. So I can definitely hear where you're coming from. And I think I definitely get that. But now if we go into your company itself, one of the topics that you mentioned that we were going to discuss today, and something that I actually bring up a lot with my clients, funny enough, even though I'm not a wellness coach or anything like that, I work more in the esoteric space, but they'll often say to me, oh, how can I make sure that my meditation is deeper? How can I, help myself focus better at work? And I'm like, start with your diet. That's where you need to start. So why don't you tell us about what you do for your clients in terms of helping them to pick food that serve as better fuel? Because that is what food really is. It's fuel, but it really can be a great energy source as well.
Yeah, exactly. So as far as fueling for your day, I work with quite a broad range of people, but the people that are more on the corporate sphere, it's really important that they're taking energy that they can use for the day. So it's really important that they look at what they're taking in and how they need to adjust that so that they have energy for the duration of the day. Like, as you know, if you take in too many carbs at once, then your insulin will spike and that'll make you tired. So you need to, like, as with any athlete, you have to know that that'll happen. So you don't take in as many carbs just to reduce the chances of you having high insulin that will make you feel tired. I don't know if you're familiar with the term "Markies full oortjies too" in South Africa.
Yeah.
So that's like when you've had your Sunday lunch and then you get tired after Sunday lunch, but it's just because you've had so much food that it just fatigues you. And all the blood gets sent to your intestines to digest that food so that it can be used in the body. But obviously when you're not, so in terms of the corporate people, I think what's important is finding those little snacks that'll help you through the day, like knowing when to have a coffee and when to have a fruit juice, for example. yeah, and that those also carry fuel. So if you have a cappuccino versus a black Americano, um, there'll be like your black Americano is more like water with caffeine than your cappuccino, which you can actually count as a snack. Um, so yeah.
Right. So that is actually really interesting for me because again, I flash back to my time in the corporate sphere when I was, in the high-rise building and doing my thing, and I would literally during the course of the day live on coffee. So black coffee would be my diet from morning till probably dinner, which is when I would then binge and hence a little weight gain as well, and not the best thing. Um, what would be your recommendation in terms of energy effectiveness for people who are not just wanting to perform at their peak, but also maintain a level of, I guess, calm and focus? Because the one thing that I didn't like was, sure, I'd be focused, but I would be so intense from the sheer amount of caffeine coursing through my system that everybody would want to kind of stay clear from me because, Stefan's on a rampage, don't get in his way. He's had his third cup already, but it's only 8 a.m. So what would you recommend for people who are in that kind of space and they need that ability to concentrate? They've got a long day. They can't afford to take, masses of time out to have a full meal. What should they be snacking on that's quick, easy, and keeps the mind alert?
Yeah, so I think that's very unique to each person, and I always encourage my clients to play around with food. So I think a lot of people, based on our history and our experiences with food, you either have a good relationship with food or you have a bad relationship with it, or you have a love-hate relationship. You love eating the food, but you hate the result of eating it. So I try and encourage them to actually just play around with the different snacks. So looking at, a small thing of yogurt with some oats versus a handful of nuts with some raisins versus, a slice of toast with peanut butter and jam or cheese or something. There's such a variety, and I think your best way is to test it out and see and make a mental note, or actually make a physical note of how you respond to that. Like I'm not a dietitian, but I make sure that my clients have access to dietitians and nutritionists because I can't give them the 100% input. So how we do that is we get them online consulting with them, and then they can load a program from our system into their calendar, and then basically they'll get an email at the beginning of each week with their planned meals and their planned snacks, and they try and include variety in that. But yeah, so that's a hyper personalized approach, which can be a bit expensive, but I also like the term school fees. If you pay for education and you actually learn stuff that's valuable for your life, then it's not, it might be 2,000 Rand now, but it's going to take you through the next 30 years comfortably, and make sure you don't get those heart attacks and high stress levels, and help you focus and perform at work. So,
For sure. Now, you mentioned something in there as well, it being, oh, excuse me, it being sort of a personalized approach that each person has to take to their own body and their own wellness, and I guess to a certain extent their own mental state as well. How do you then tie that into, if you have a client, again, let's keep it in the corporate world, who says, right, I really need to get things back on track. And actually, let's use me as an example. After I had my little mini cardio and what's it called? Cardio infarction? Yeah, it doesn't sound right. But anyway, that.
Yeah.
If someone then comes to you and goes, right, I need to get back on track, but man, I just don't have the pluck, to use a South African term. What would you suggest? How do you help people to find that inner motivation? Because I know it cannot come from outside. It has to come from internal.
Yeah. So I think I think people, especially now after this year, people are they're really tightening down on budgets, and they're really looking at their finances in a different way. But in a certain light, they've also forgotten about what happened a few months back. So they've continued to spend, but on the wrong things. So I think that's where it's important to look at the value that something adds. Like if you have a closet full of clothes, you know, you've got t-shirts, shorts, long pants, you know, you've got your corporate gear, whatever you need, and then you go off and see the newest t-shirt and you really like it and you go and buy it, which costs the same as a nutrition consult, and you're really struggling with the nutrition aspect and you don't acknowledge that, and then you say, oh well, I don't have money for that, but then you go off. I think it's important to make sure you look at those discrepancies in your understanding of where you lie. If you say like something's too expensive versus not being able to afford it, or I think priorities is another important thing. So how important is your health versus how you look on the outside? Yeah, that type of thing.
For sure. And I like that you bring that up, because I've been guilty of that in the past, you know, where you go, oh, I don't have the money to eat healthy. And then you go, no, hang on, you're willing to spend like $200 on KFC and, excuse me again, and fruit for the week probably costs the exact same. You could quite easily, you know, really turn around your diet, and as a result, like you're saying, you know, laying that basis, make sure that you actually have the energy and the focus to do what you need to do and get out there.
Yeah, exactly.
But then I guess, yeah. Sorry, please. You were saying something and then I cut you off.
Sorry, no stress. I was going to say about the being able to spending what you would in a week on like a fast food meal, and I think that's so critical. And there's not a bad thing if you say, okay, on a Saturday, that's my day where I'll go and have KFC or whatever. But you also need to draw that line and say, okay, well, I actually can't afford it, but maybe I can budget for it next month. And then it's almost more rewarding. And it's not that, like, I don't want to encourage people to eat KFC every week, but I want to encourage people to enjoy what they eat. You shouldn't be on a diet and hate every moment of it. I don't think that's valuable at all.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. And then that kind of brings us into the last topic that I wanted to kind of broach with you, and something that, again, I bring up with my clients all the time. You know, same thing when they're saying, oh, how do I improve my meditative practice? How do I get to the next level? How do I perform better at work? And I always tell them, start with some movement. You know, your body is the basis of your spirit. How do you broach that with your clients? What do you get them to do? What is sort of your, in terms of your firm and the work that you do with your clients, how is that something that you put forward for them?
So we've got a few avenues that we look at there, and typically this is where our entry comes in. So people won't usually come and approach us for nutrition or for mindset or that type of thing. They'll usually approach us for the physical aspect, and then from there we work with them on the next levels. But as far as the approach goes, so we've got group classes where I try and encourage a holistic range of movement. So we call it Move Max classes, where you take your movement to the maximum. And I think there's got a better approach than exercise classes, because exercise is typically something that you had at school that you were forced to do in your ed lesson, and there was no fun involved in it because they were just ticking the check boxes of the curriculum and making sure that you got through, type of thing. And I may be a bit alternative in thinking that way, but I know that most of my friends felt that way, so I don't think I'm too wrong.
For sure, I can testify to that.
No, exactly. And then, yeah, so I try and take an approach of, okay, these are all the things, and it's all body weight stuff, and it's all variations. And I try and like educate people through those movements. Make sure that you get full range of motion in your hips and in your knees and in your shoulders. From there, I try and encourage them to find something that they enjoy doing. So I don't want to see people suffering through 20 burpees when they would far rather prefer going on a hike, you know? And then in terms of that, when people have found their thing, then we do one-on-one training, either virtually or in person, or we provide them with a program, and then we do a consult once a week or twice a week, however many times we need to. And then the program can be anything from 3 to 10 sessions per week, depending on obviously their level and that type of thing. So yeah, we've got quite a nice range of tools for our clients. That's also quite personalized. So it's not too up in the air and I'm doing what everyone else is doing. Yeah, so I quite enjoy the diversity there.
Fantastic. Well, I, for one, am certainly going to be referring a lot of my clients your way, because most of my clients are actually in the United States, and most of the states there are going into another lockdown for winter, and they're all saying the same thing. You know, we can't go to gym, we can't do this, and you know, how are we going to work out? And I've actually been looking for a tool to send them, so this would be perfect, because I did notice you have at-home workouts, and like you said, it's also all body weight stuff, so that is perfect. And the fact you, again, look for ways to, no, the word's not specialize, gosh, I've gone blank, tailor it to each person, there we go, so that it's, you know, something that they actually enjoy doing. That then, like we were saying, takes us back to the previous thing about being able to find that motivation. It's so much easier to be motivated when it's something you enjoy, as opposed to dreading that you're not going to do 50 burpees that you don't feel like doing at all. So, for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
But okay.
Thanks, Stephen.
So, Jarryd, well, thank you so much for joining us today. Before I let you go, though, how do people get in touch with you aside from here on Instagram?
So you can drop me an email at, it's Jarryd, Jarryd, at Actualize, ACTUALISE.co.za. In my bio, you can also click there. There's a link to book a consult with me. So that's a free 20-minute consult. We'll see where you're at, what you need, and yeah, it's pretty much in a. I don't know about the US. I think it would be like probably 3 or 4 a.m. But I'll try to open up some slots in the later, like more towards the morning or in the evening. Then you guys can book sessions. That's a bit more appropriate. Yeah, and obviously from there, yeah, we can work with it. You can also follow at Actualize You. That's Actualize with an S. That's our main profile, and we've got quite a few cool things coming up over the next few months. Yeah, it's been a quiet period on social. We've just been regrouping and focusing on our priorities.
No, so fantastic. Well, this has been great. And also, as I'm sure everybody realizes by now, you are also a speaker on the Wellness Lifestyle Conference. And as always, the link is in my bio, so you can click through to our website and catch Jarryd's premium content there. And I will be sure to drop all your contact details in the comment section of this video as well on Instagram. To those who are catching the replay of this on YouTube or Facebook, same thing applies. The information will be in the description of the video, and the link through to the Wellness Lifestyle Conference will be in our bio as well. Jarryd, thank you so much for joining us today. We really do appreciate it, and looking forward to seeing what Actualize does in the future as it grows from strength to strength.
Thanks, Stefan. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate your time and what you guys are doing as well.
It's a pleasure. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Yeah, you too. Be safe, eh? Chat soon.
You too. Cheers. Bye.